October 23rd, 1906. The typhoid that spread through the household ended its course by the beginning of this month. I understand now the nature of epidemiology and Mr. Soper's work. If we don't find out how this fever started, it could resurface and pass like the plague through water or food or some other means into the neighborhood. That would be disastrous. We've gone back to the house each day this week collecting evidence, building the information we have about this large household. With each visit, I learned more about their lives. Mr. Soper says we must especially focus on the foods they eat, an amount that seems enough to feed everyone on my street. We interviewed the 2 maids, the laundress, the gardener, the butler, all of whom became ill on Saturday, September 6th, the same week as the boys. Mr. Soper asked each of them to recall what they ate in the last month, and I jotted everything in that folio. It's a most difficult task trying to get 11 people to remember 30 days of eggs, bacon, grits, baked breads and muffins, cheese sandwiches and tomatoes and apples and plums and steaks and potatoes and salads and chops and spaghetti and sauces and desserts and snacks, especially when they don't all join together for each meal, and the servants graze like cows, it seems. My lists are so complex, they'll have to be cross-referenced and indexed like a book. I spent the week working on charts and graphs to order the types of foods together, with headings of dairy and meat and vegetables and so on, and I'm not even halfway through. I cannot help but wonder what it would be like to have so much food to eat whenever one wanted to eat it. With an icebox and a pantry, all sorts of things seem possible. I took notes of the household movements and developed charts of people visited, places traveled, and visitors to the home. I feel a little like a spy writing down who this family goes to meet and who comes to visit. I think of the social circles that Mrs. Browning always had us aspire to, and wonder what she would think of me writing down the eating and visiting habits of the rich. Mr. Soper inspected the house and collected water from the well and scrapings from the taps. He took samples of lamb, beef, chicken, and milk, and peaches and apples, bananas, and greens in the kitchen. Out in the backyard, he took a shovel and he dug down deep until he reached the smell of sewage, which was the septic field for the house's toilets. He shoveled up samples and bottled them, handing the odoriferous tubes to me without worrying about offending my female senses. He put me in charge of labeling and stacking these bottled samples in their wooden holders. And I have to say, I felt a certain joy rolling up my sleeves and performing this dirty work alongside of him. We brought the samples back to the laboratory to test for disease, and we now await the results. I found out that Mr. Thompson does not own this mansion. He only rents it from a rich merchant for the summer. He's terribly nervous about the merchant is going to blame him for the disease, especially if we don't find the cause. Worst of all, the family is trapped on Long Island and cannot return to their townhouse in the city. Their landlord will not take them if they carry the fever. The children cannot return to school until they are all completely well. I think the hardest hit by all of this was little Amy Thompson, who just came out of Nassau Hospital. A shy girl of 7, her long brown hair tied up in a bow. She is neat and polite, normal seeming, until one looks at her face. It seems the fever rash had broken out all over her neck and chin, and she could not let it alone. The itch plagued her, and she scratched and picked and left such awful sores that have not healed properly, patchy scars that will stay with her all of her life. In the family portrait on the mantelpiece, I see that Amy had been a beautiful girl with a bold smile. I fear the fever has taken away her beauty and that easy personality away from her.